So good morning and welcome to Norcal PTACs webinar in partnership with the County of Santa Clara, entitled Request for Quotation and Invitation to Bid. Thanks for joining us. We're going to jump right in here. My name is James Forrest. I am the program coordinator for Norcal PTAC. Christina Jones is the senior lead procurement specialist with Norcal PTAC. And we're very happy, as I said, to be partnering with the County of Santa Clara. And we do have some panelists from their end joining us. We have Teresa Cox from Procurement, Alicia Flynn from Parks, Met Cavall from Parks, Anna Marie Cruz, Roads and Airports, also Kim Coffin from that department, and Pon Sivangje from Facilities and Fleet. So welcome to all of you. We also have, sorry about that. So before I hand things over to the main presenters, we're going to start with Santa Clara, and then we're going to have the main presenter given by Christina Jones. We're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about Norcal PTAC. So we are the Northern California Procurement Technical Assistance Center. That is a bit of a mouthful. It kind of hurts my mouth to say the whole thing. So we just go by Norcal PTAC, shorter or sweeter. And we are a small nonprofit program, but we're a part of a network of centers across the country. Our office, our main office, is based up in Humboldt County. If you can see where that red star is up there, that's where we are located. And we are hosted by the Humboldt State University Sponsored Programs Foundation. We get our funding from a number of places, chiefly the Defense Logistics Agency, the federal government. We also get state and local grant sources. So all of this means that we can provide our services to small businesses, to businesses of any size really, at no cost at all to you. And what we do is we provide one-on-one counseling, custom bid matching, and resources and trainings. With these services, we've helped our clients win more than $314 million in 2020 alone. And that was a difficult year for obvious reasons. So, and that was twice as much as we did in 2019. So we're on a nice upward trajectory of helping our clients get their throw their hat in the ring for these government contracts that can too often go to the more well-prepared companies. So the way we do this is with three basic core services. Like I said, one-on-one counseling is the bread and butter of what we do. So if you apply to become a client, and you are eligible to apply to become a client if your business has a location in our service area here in the green counties. You see those 15 green counties. And if you are set up and running, so if you're not like a brand new startup, if you have a couple quarters of sales and you've got some capacity for government contracting, and then of course, if you're interested in government contracting, we can connect you with one of our procurement specialists who can meet with you to go over just about any topic you can think of in government contracting. For our clients, we can also set up custom bid matching. Basically, we set up some criteria in a system and it forwards you bid opportunities from all different sectors in the government and the government marketplace into your inbox that match those criteria. So you can stay on top of those opportunities and made available to you. It's pretty cool. It's a service we pay for, then we offer to you for free. And then we also have resources and trainings. So you all know that because you're here today, and we've been doing a lot of webinars. I'll go over some of them a bit later as well. So the gist is that if you'd like to sign up, it doesn't cost you anything and it doesn't take long. We're all super friendly, really happy to help you out. You can go to norcalptac.org. Do make sure that you provide an address that's in this service area, or I'll be required to reject your application. If you are not in our service area, you can find other PTACs. There's about 94 PTACs across the country. So we included a link there as well. These links will be active when we share the slides later. Another note, we are recording this webinar, and the slides in PDF form, as well as a YouTube of this video that we're recording, will be put on our website. And as you can see, if you go to our website, click on resources, past webinars, you'll be able to find it. It'll join a whole archive of other past webinars that you'll be able to find there. Also like to give a shout out to America's SBDC, the Northern California Network. This is a nonprofit network made up of 18 centers that are dedicated to help small businesses with every aspect of business creation, growth management, operation, et cetera. So they are general business assistance folks, kind of a sister program to us, whereas we focus on procurement, they are general business assistants. So if you need that as well, you can find them there. I tend to just Google your county and then SBDC. As you can see, there's a lot of them in this Northern California region, which is a little bigger than ours. And just to note that we both have COVID-19 resources available to the public on our websites. All right, I believe I am handing things over to Catherine here. This is Catherine Wasserlauf. You can take us away.
Thank you, James. Good morning and welcome, everyone. We're glad you all could join us for the second installment of our quarterly training series. I'll provide a brief overview of the County of Santa Clara. So the county is the 6th most populous county in California, with a population of more than 1.9 million people. And the county contains 15 cities encompassing approximately 1,300 square miles, with a large concentration of technology companies. County government has an estimated workforce of over 20,000 and is one of the largest employers in this area. The county's fiscal year 2021 budget is $8.2 billion, of which $3.7 billion is for supplies, services, and fixed assets. The mission of the county is to plan for the needs of a dynamic community, provide quality services, and promote a healthy, safe, and prosperous community for all. The county values ethical conduct reflecting honesty and integrity, and strives to uphold the principles of equality, fairness, and objectivity. The county's organizational structure includes a decentralized mix of more than 35 agencies and departments. The county provides services such as parks and recreation, road construction and maintenance, public safety and justice, affordable housing, libraries, and environmental resource management. It also operates enterprise programs, which charge fees for services. And 2 examples are the county health system and the county airports. The county also acts as an agent of the state in administering health, social services, and criminal justice programs that are of statewide concern. To help you better participate in the many business opportunities with the County of Santa Clara, we're hosting quarterly trainings. This morning, we will be providing an overview of price-driven procurement processes, requests for quotations, and invitations to bid. In August, we'll offer an overview of one of our value-based processes, the ICP. And to close out the year, we'll offer the RFP overview. So thank you for joining us this morning, and we look forward to providing you more learning opportunities in the future. Thank you, James.
All right, thanks, Catherine. So now we're going to be going over procurement solicitation methods overview. Is this you as well, Catherine, or did we already cover that? I think we covered that. Okay, so we have a number of panelists, like we mentioned. The first up is Teresa Cox. So welcome, Teresa. If you could unmute yourself and turn on your video. All right.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Teresa Cox. I'm the Senior Strategic Sourcing Officer based right here in the County of Santa Clara. And the group that I manage is called FIO. And FIO stands for Facilities, Office, Institutions, Operations. So FOIO. What commodities are under this group? Well, we have a portfolio of about contract portfolio of about $500,000, and we're representing about 350 contracts. And with that, if you think about it, it's any products or service that do not fall under our group is medical, procurement or patient care, or technology like computer, software, and hardware. So everything else every day is FIO. And so some of the projects that we touch upon are helping out our county hospitals, all 3 of them, roads and parks, airports, animal shelter, facilities, and fleet. It goes to even cover our CEO's office and clerk of the boards, Office of Supportive Housing, including our sheriff's office and county communications. So when you look at the services to our clients, it's mainly focused at life and safety, preventing or mitigating loss of property, human aspect, animal aspect, food impact, workplace impact. So examples of some of the commodities also would include, besides food and food services, furniture and moving. It's also including any type of janitorial services, pest management, office supplies, advertising and promotions, and printing of material. So we have some upcoming solicitations that will be anticipated coming up over the next couple of months, such as our countywide janitorial services, fresh baked goods, elevator maintenance and repair, door and repair and maintenance services, grease trap, septic tank and sewer line plumbing, cleaning and maintenance services. We also are looking at some of our moving and relocation services, facilities and facility uniforms and garment rentals. So we have quite a few things that are coming up, and just make sure that you are registered, and especially categorizing all the commodities that you're classified and able to provide products and services. And that's usually the best way on how to be on the list as we send out these upcoming solicitations. Thank you so much, Teresa Cox.
Thanks, Teresa. We're going to hand things over to Parks right now. So we have Met Caval and Alicia Flynn. Sorry about the typo there. It's Alicia A. Flynn, not a Flynn.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for being a part of this discussion. My name is Met Caval, and I am a contract manager for the Parks and Recreation Department. At this very moment, I actually serve in a capacity as a disaster service worker on COVID-19 pandemic-related projects, and so are many of my parks colleagues. Once we are all released back to our home department, we will actually have to regroup and establish a new priority timetable for capital projects. And at that time, we will start soliciting and issuing more solicitations in Periscope. The Parks Department issues all RFQs, ITBs, RFPs, and any and other solicitations in Periscope. So my recommendation to you all would be that you register in Periscope. This way you will always know what the Parks Department actually has in the pipeline. Currently, let me just put some ad in to the community out there. We currently actually have 2 requests for proposals in Periscope. One is for environmental consulting services, and the second one is for planning consultant services. So if you're interested to issue a proposal, if I'm not mistaken, please, the deadline for the proposal is sometimes next week. I'm not exactly sure what date. So please check in Periscope, and if you're interested, submit a proposal. However, if you are interested to know what potential capital projects Parks Department will have in next 5 to 10 years, I would recommend you go on the county public website, scgov.org, and you will find under the government, budget and finance, a 10-year capital improvement program report. So this report will actually give you a snapshot of all potential long-term projects, capital projects that Park Department will be issuing in the next 5 to 10 years. My co-partner on this panel is Alicia, and she will tell you more about her role and her project. So Alicia, take it from here.
Thank you, Mecca. Unfortunately, I don't have a visual to go with my name this morning due to computer issues, but I am Alicia Flynn. I am a capital projects manager with the Santa Clara County Parks Department Design and Construction Program. And our program manages public works projects within our county park system from design through construction. And Parks has a variety of projects that support the department, including the development, expansion, and replacement of park amenities. These amenities can include anything from trails and landscape to remodeled, new, or repaired structures such as visitor centers, campgrounds, restrooms, office facilities, and quite a variety of historic structures. And also infrastructure and utility upgrades and replacements. As Mecca mentioned, we bid all of our public works projects via Periscope / BidSync, as it was formerly known. Our minor public works projects are posted by the county's facility and fleet department as a minor public works. So you would see it showing up in Periscope, possibly under their area. But any projects over 200,000 are posted directly by the Parks Department. And upcoming, we have a variety of projects, including, let's see, we have paving projects, which are usually ongoing throughout most of the dry months of the year, but can also continue into the winter months sometimes on occasion. We have park office upgrade projects, including ADA and minor building remodels that will be coming up in the not too distant future. We have a multi-million-dollar fencing replacement project at Grant Park due to the loss of about 15 miles of fencing due to the last year's SCU Lightning Complex fire. We also have remediation projects at Arlington and Quicksilver and Sanborn Park, as well as other minor public works projects coming up in, I would say, the next 1 to 6 months. So that pretty much sums up our group. I'm going to pass it over to Roads and Airports.
All right, we have Anna Marie Cruz and Kim Coffin.
Hello, everyone. I'm Anna Marie Cruz, and I'm a contract manager with the Roads and Airports Department. And overall, in general, the Roads and Airports Department, we our mission basically, is to preserve our 2 county airports and our 62 miles of expressways and bridges. And I'm sorry, I just lost my notes. So let me just wing it here. Yes, so I am a contract manager, and we also participate in the DBE program. If you're not familiar with that, that is the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program. And if you want to register for that, I would suggest that you would go to the Caltrans website. And I won't go into too many specifics on that, but for all our federally funded contracts, we do refer to the list from and the rules and the regulations around the Caltrans program. I really focus on professional services and contracts. However, I'm going to introduce Kim Coffin, who is in our infrastructure unit, who participates more in the capital projects and the construction projects. Kim?
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Kim Coffin. I am the supervising clerk in infrastructure and development within Roads and Airports, and I manage the construction project solicitations. So our department, basically, like Anna Marie said, we operate and maintain 62 miles of expressway and 365 miles of rural and urban roadways in unincorporated areas of Santa Clara County. We also maintain the bridges. And so our projects, we don't classify them as ITBs. They're considered, we do them as request for bids. So you would see it as an RFB, which is basically the same thing as an ITB. And they are capital projects. We post them on Periscope, which is formerly known as BidSync. We also, our information also goes to the California Builders Exchanges too, so you can find the information there. And so most of our projects are fairly large projects. So we do have some large contracting companies that bid on these projects. But don't let that scare you. I would recommend at least going on to Periscope to see what we have. And like Metka had mentioned earlier, to when you register on Periscope, to pick all the commodity codes that pertain to your services and your products, because within these contracts, the contractors, they hire a lot of subcontractors. So even though you might not bid on one of our projects, you might be able to piggyback with a subcontractor. In Periscope, you can see who the contractors are that are the plan holders. We do know, we mark our projects as construction projects, so that will allow the vendor to go in and see who the plan holders are, or who the contractors are that have downloaded the plans and specs for our bids. So I would highly recommend, if you haven't, to go ahead and register on Periscope. That is really the only way we put our projects out there. Like I said, aside from builders exchanges, but they also obtain the information from Periscope. So that is recommended. And Anna Marie had mentioned the DBE program, which is for disadvantaged businesses. So our contractors are required to employ a certain percentage of businesses that are disadvantaged, and that can be economical or social. And so if your business falls into that category, it might be a good idea to register for that as well. As far as upcoming projects, so far, we've been trying to work with the new budget because of the whole coronavirus thing, and it's really changed things, the way the department is working. So we do have a few projects upcoming. We have some pavement projects. We have a Montague Expressway rehab project, Lawrence Expressway pavement rehab. We also have a guardrail safety improvement project coming up at various county locations. And in the future, we will probably have an RFSQ or an RFP coming up. I know we're not talking to that really, but for the sanitation sewer district, so that's something that you can see as well upcoming. So I would highly recommend going and registering on Periscope. That way you're notified whenever we do post a project that might include classification or commodity categories that your business handles. Thank you. I'll pass it on to Pond and Fleet and Facilities.
Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Kim. Hi, my name is Pond Savance. I am the Chief of Construction for Facilities and Fleet. What we do in our department is mainly a lot of TIs, so we do from design to construction. So in order for us to get those services, we typically do an RFP for a proposal for the design consultant to do the design. And then once we get a design, we typically go out, on Periscope/bid sync with the ITB to get, the general contractor to come and bid on the project. So the way that we reach out to vendors, or the way that we get projects out, is through bid sync. And on bid sync, it's great that the vendors who whatnot will need to register there, so that you get notification for everything that Facilities and Fleet do. It's a public contract. It's a public contract code, and the PCC. So everything needs to be advertised. It needs to be publicly notified to whoever is wanting to bid on it. So the best way, I want to voice the same thing that my counterparts here, the panelists here, is that Periscope bid sync is the best way for you to know what's upcoming for future projects in with Facilities and Fleet. And then we also do, I believe, Metcalf and Alicia was from Parks. We do a lot of their solicitation for minor public works. Anything under 200,000, we as the Facilities and Fleet Department take that and we advertise it on their behalf. But anything above that, we would go to my Public Works, which means we're advertising on bid sync with drawings and specification, similar to roads and airport. There's no difference in how we advertise and get contractors on board. I do like to kind of anticipate, there's potential anticipation of upcoming projects that's, pending board, pending funding. These are all mainly designs already complete and we're ready to construct. So we have a tuberculosis relocation project going out, Sunnyvale Dental and Pharmacy project. There's a Parkmore demolition. There's a Carroll Drive tenant improvement. So there's a handful of projects going out that will be advertised on BidSync/Periscope. That's pending board approval and funding. So that's what I have. So I'll take that back to you, James.
Perfect. Thanks, Pon. Okay, and I believe that we are now here for the main content presentation from Christina Jones. So she is our senior lead procurement specialist at Norcal PTAC, and you are in excellent hands with her. Thanks for all your work putting this together, and take it away, Christina.
Thank you, James. Good morning, everyone. And thanks also to the panelists. I really appreciate it. Also, just learning more about what it is each of your departments do, and also, what you procure. So with that, we're going to move forward with kind of learning a bit more about the specifics. It's sort of highline, but it's also some specifics on request for quotes and invitation to bid, which is ITB. So just a little, first a guideline, I guess, with any agency, but we're particularly for this particular presentation focusing on Santa Clara County, but know the rules and regulations. I'm sorry, just clicking on that. Know the rules and regulations. And so be familiar, for instance, with the County of Santa Clara, with what's unique about this county. By reviewing their standard terms and conditions for goods and services, for example, and looking at some of the things that may be different with other agencies that you may deal with, like what are their rules for terminating for convenience? What are the what are the reasons to terminate for cause? Does the county pay any late fees, which they don't pay late fees, for instance, like maybe where the state of California would. So just being familiar with what the particular rules and regulations are, because once you sign on for the project and sign the agreement, then you are bound to it. So that's the first step to kind of being familiar with that. And my slide's not advancing. My slide is not advancing. Oh, there we go. Okay, so now we're just going to do a comparison overview of requests for quotes, RFQs, or ITB's invitation to bid. So if you just look here at the two charts, they're very similar in some ways, as far as, one is informal and one is formal. That's really the basic difference here. Everything else, as far as the same, is pretty much the same, and it's based on the lowest price. However, for the informal process, we're not, it may not be issued through BidSync Periscope. It may not be issued through Ariba. It may come directly from a department. Those are just some differences that, as far as the informal process. Also, there's going to be a difference in the forms, which we'll review on the next slide. But in general, you'll look for a very formal process with the ITB, similar to an RFP, but a little more flexibility when it comes to RFQs. All right, do I think I went too far? Yes. So as far as required forms, so you can see there's a vast difference between what's required at the informal process versus the formal process, and that not all solicitations are required. Specifically for the informal process, there isn't a set of required forms. It's not applicable to all solicitations. So look out for what the agency specifically is asking for. If they send you an email asking you to provide a quote, then send it back through email. Don't go out to and send it back through Periscope. So just look at and pay attention to what the particular department is looking for when you're responding to those. For a formal process, the ITB, you can see there's a number of forms. Some of these forms, if you've done business with the state of California, are very similar, if not the same. Bidders representation, non-collusion declaration, those types of things are very similar to the forms you've seen if you've done business with the state, and also required again by the county. So they have a declaration of contractor, which is unique to the county, and they have type 1 and type 2 packets. So type 1s would be including anything that like a sole source or construction or other work required by law to be contracted out. And individuals and contractors that employ less than 25 employees. So those are all parts of, or some of the pieces of a type 1 packet. And type 2, you're having a similar process, but you have to provide more specific information in addition to what's required of a type 1. So both are required to be a responsible bidder, but type 2 has a little bit more clarification, more documentation that's required for type 2 contractors. So determine your interest and capacity. And I also like to refer to this as determining whether it's a bid or no bid for you. By reviewing the invitation first, start off reviewing and seeing what is the scope of work? What are they asking here? Not just at a high level as far as what's the title of the solicitation, but what is it that they're asking that I'm able to do? So review the scope of work in detail. They don't list specific evaluation requirements under these. These are based on pricing, but look at what the scope is asking and see how strong you are as a vendor and your ability to meet the requirements. So also look at the solicitation schedule, of course. Was there by the time you found it, for example, was there a site visit that you missed that was required? So that would be a no bid situation. Look and see what the deadlines are. Maybe it's due tomorrow, so it's not enough time for you to put together a solid response. So just really follow what's required to see first if you have the capacity, and also, if you're interested, of course, we'll bring you to the solicitation, but whether or not you have the capacity should be the deciding factor whether you're going to move forward. So you're going to be reading through the requirements very carefully, learning how they will award. So will they choose to award by line items? Like, are all line items going to be included, or can you pick certain line items? And sometimes you have to get these questions answered through a Q&A or by review of a Q&A. But just be familiar with exactly what and how the county will award. So is it an all or none situation is basically, what I'm kind of explaining here, or is it, I can pick out the things that I'm able to provide. So again, just being familiar with the rules of engagement outlined, any rules that are in any contract, make sure you review those, the specific ones to that specific agreement, as well as, again, timelines and, very important, capacity. Are you able to perform? So let's look at what would be the procedural requirements if we were going to dig into one. What are the instructions to the bidder? Compliance with the bid schedule is required. Look at whether there's something like a prerequisite that's required. For instance, like a security clearance form. Perhaps you're going to go on site on a prison, and you need a security clearance prior to the site visit. And there's a certain window where you need to submit the form so that you can get the clearance to go on to the site visit that may be mandatory. So those are some types of things to look at beyond just looking at the date it's due. See if there's anything required. Maybe you're required to send something back that says that you intend to participate. Like I've seen on Periscope and other requirements, there's an initial requirement to just check off that you intend to participate. So make sure that you pay attention to those small things as well, so you don't become disqualified or from bidding, or you're not able to bid because you didn't meet one of the prerequisites. So questions must be submitted electronically through the respective system. We're talking about if it's an ITB. So, you know, be mindful, as it mentions here, of the Q&A period deadline. So a lot of times I see this often, a company will have a question, they'll come after, and sometimes they'll try to reach out to the contact on the solicitation. And sometimes they will respond, you know, depending on, you know, the agencies, of course, their, you know, time and, you know, willingness to do that outside of really what's stated. But what's the rule is that you need to submit the question within the Q&A answer period. What's also just the, you know, on the upside of that, if you miss it, a lot of times another vendor has asked that question or a very similar question where you can kind of derive what the answer should be. So make sure you submit questions that you have. And also, even if you don't submit questions, make sure you review the questions and the answers that were given, because it may bring up something that you didn't think about, and maybe again back to the process of determining, do I want to bid? Am I qualified to bid on this particular opportunity based on what was the Q&A that was posted? So make sure you also, even if you've reviewed all the documentation and you've started to put together your bid package, and then at the end, there's an addendum that's put out. Maybe that addendum is an extension of time and you're like, great. Or maybe you're just so busy trying to meet that deadline that you don't notice that addendum. That is going to be a part of your response. So make sure that you pay attention to those, and that they are important to responding to solicitation, and submit those as well. More about requirements. You can only submit one bid per solicitation. So you may have had experiences where there are some other agencies where you're able to submit a bid and then an alternate bid, but in this case, it's one bid per solicitation. And it must be by someone, and that's pretty much in all contracting arenas, is that it must be someone with the authority to bind the bidder. So, you know, a CEO or someone who has the authority, an officer to bind the company. And then all bids must be the bid minimum, they must be honored for a minimum of 90 days. So after closing date. So that means your pricing, whatever you offered, for example, or whatever service you proposed, must be good at that rate for 90 days from the day of submission. And the bids must be, in this case, submitted electronically by the closing date and time. So again, they'll be submitted through either a Periscope or Ariba. And in those cases, there's a specific closing date or time, and you'll see that it's closed, and it will not allow you to submit any changes once that time passes. So let's look a little bit, talk a little bit about the evaluation criteria and whether you are responsive or responsible bidder, just knowing the difference between those two. So a bid that fully conforms in all material aspects of the bid. So with conforming with what the scope is that's requested, meeting all the requirements, sending in, you know, all of the documents, and everything is in order as it should be as far as what the requirements requested and what you've submitted. And then you are considered a responsive bidder. A responsible bidder is also is the next step as far as not only being responsive, as far as meeting all the requirements, checking all the boxes, dotting all the I's and crossing your T's, but also from a financial perspective. It's something called, for instance, like in the federal government, will be like lowest price technically acceptable. So the technically acceptable piece is that it's responsive. You met the requirements, and then lowest price would be like the responsible piece. Your lowest price, but you're also, it has to be along with being having a responsive offer. So specific evaluation criteria would not be listed, but these are the, as far as like, you know, I'm going to rate you 10% on, you know, submission on time. That wouldn't be one of the requirements, but, you know, in some cases you'll see 10 points for this, or, you know, 20 points for that when you submit a response. But in this case, they're telling you in all cases, be a responsive bidder. So a little bit deeper look into that. Compliance, again, with all procedural requirements, acceptance of the county terms and conditions, submissions of the documents in the template format provided. So I rarely see this, but every once in a while I see someone who will attach their own agreement, like the agreement or contract that they have that they use maybe with a private vendor. And I advise them that you should take that out. You must take it out because the contract is coming from the perspective of the agency, and you agree to meet the terms, and that goes back to reviewing their standard terms and conditions and understanding what the county requires, what is it that they are what are their terms, for instance, like I say, of termination, or whether it be for convenience or for cause, just being familiar with all of their rules, and then understanding whether or not you're willing to meet that and accept that before you submit a response. So that's part, again, of being responsive. And then being responsible. These are just some of the other areas as far as not just submitting a good response, but having the financial capacity, just the experience, being able to really perform on the contract. So be familiar with these requirements when you're considering really at the bid, no bid stage, whether or not you want to move forward. And again, the basis of award goes to the lowest price, responsible bidder. So we kind of reviewed that. And let's talk a little bit about some technical tips. So always submit your bid early, especially when you're using, one of the portals, or really, no, anytime you're using a portal or email as well, because I've seen some situations, even if you were submitting, say, for instance, like an RFQ that was informal, you received from a department where, there's a connection problem with the internet, or there's a delay, and you submit on the last minute that it's due, and they don't receive it, your time stamp shows it was submitted at 2 p.m. and their time stamp shows it was submitted at 2:01, which means it's late. And once it's late, it's basically, it can be thrown out. So just consider always submitting early, no matter what platform you're using, or even if you're driving it in, if that was the case, because, obviously there are lots of things that can happen. So always consider that on any solicitation you're responding to. Do not submit your own format. I kind of talked about a contract, but also in general, just, if you have your own spreadsheet you use for pricing and they have the pricing spreadsheet within the solicitation, of course, you're going to always use the forms that are required and listed on the solicitation. So they will tell you, which is really nice about the county and also the state, they have very specific forms that you fill out that have specific guidelines and our guidance on how to complete them. So just follow the format that they've given you and use those as part of your response. And so these are some other tips about not including sales tax. And don't forget to include all the forms. So I've seen this also, and signatures, because we're rushing, and that goes back really to the first bullet of not submitting so close to the last minute, because you won't have time to review and make sure you have all the forms. Maybe there was an amendment that was added that you forgot to review or sign or just add. So just make sure that you have time to do a complete review of everything. Because sometimes I know when looking at the forms themselves, it looks like, okay, I need these 6 or 7 forms. But as you get into it, you see, even though there are specific requirements, but there may be, you want to make sure maybe it should be submitted in a certain order. There are certain requirements that may go along with the form. So make sure you just leave enough time and pay close attention to what they're asking. Don't overlook insurance requirements. So in the county's case, a certificate must be provided within 3 days of notification by the county. And I believe that can be whether it's, actually after contract award or just, during the process, 3 days from the date that they notify you. So maybe you're in consideration, one of the finalists for this particular award, and maybe, the buyer will reach out and ask for your certificate of insurance, and you have 3 days to provide that. So these are the two portals that Santa Clara County uses, which are Ariba and Periscope. And this is technical support resources. Also, they have some really great guides on the county's website as far as how to get registered, how to use the system. There's quite a few different guides there that would be helpful to you as well. And also, if you reach out to us at the PTAC, we can help guide you through any of these processes that, as James kind of mentioned in the beginning, our goal is to, help make it easier for you to do business with the agencies, and in this case with the County of Santa Clara. So we'll help you with anything as far as to the best of our ability of getting you, helping you troubleshoot issues you may be having with the system, and or review of your documents and before you submit, and more. So I'm going to talk a bit about what those more things are in a second. But to increase your competitiveness, first we'll talk about this about, if applicable, apply for local preference. So if you're within, the area, the local area, apply for a local preference. And that's what a part of just making yourself more attractive. Is not a guarantee of any work, but it's just, the agencies, of course, like the Santa Clara County or any other agencies, they'd like to do business also locally and make sure those local vendors, get some type of preference. So if you are local, don't discount the value of signing up or getting registered as a local vendor. So, and the declaration of local business form is required form in all ITB bid submissions, but I believe not in public works. So some of the things we can do to also prepare are to conduct research and reach out to PTAC. I would say those two things can go together, because you can conduct research, yes, on your own, but you can also reach out to us at the PTAC, and we can help guide you through the tools that the county has, as well as just review of past awards, for instance, with some systems that we subscribe to help you kind of competitively look at how you fit as far as before you bid. Also, like I said, detailed review of the documentation, the bid opportunity, helping you kind of break that down and know what you need to do step by step. So here are more details on the local preference. Applies to ITB. Like I mentioned, it does not apply to public works. And in determining the lowest responsible bidder, 5% is subtracted from the total bid price submitted. So by the responsible local business. So, back to what we spoke of earlier, making sure you meet both of those categories. And then the next step is that if you're a local vendor, the 5% will be deducted, from your price. So if you both bid, $10,000, your bid, and you were the only two different companies, and you were the only local bidder, then 5% would be considered deducted from your price. You would be considered as bidding 5% less than that other vendor. So again, it's kind of the icing on the cake, but it's not something that guarantees contracts. So step one, as far as, getting ready to do business with the county, is getting registered. A couple of the different contacts from the department mentioned getting registered. So again, it's very important. These links are active. If you want to click on the links once you receive the slides from James, you can click there and start the registration process. And also you can make sure that you keep your commodity codes up to date. So your commodity codes, for those of you maybe familiar with the state, the UNSPSC codes are the codes they use. Commodity codes are also another code that's used that's similar to like a product service code. So all of them are going to basically, describe what it is that you do. So if there are other areas of the business that you work in that are not currently listed, commodity codes are not currently listed, make sure to add those. And then visit their vendor registration page. This is what I was kind of mentioning about, a lot of different guides there. It's a lot of information. So again, we at the PTAC can help guide you through that if you need assistance knowing what to do first. And then attend any pre-bid conferences, whether or not they're required or not. So you can get a good feel for who plans to bid, maybe team up with some other company, maybe you're looking for a partner. So you can find out who's interested in bidding, kind of get an overview, of course, if there's a walkthrough or something of the facility, so you can kind of visualize exactly what it is you need to price and what you need to be prepared to do. So always attend the pre-bid conference, and some of these might be virtual at the moment, but attend the pre-bid conference, whether it's mandatory or not. And site visit, basically. That's part of, could be it, the pre-bid conference could be held at the site, so just depending. And more on conducting research, review active contracts. And this is what I was referring to, where the PTAC can help you. We can look at historically what's been purchased, either currently or within a few years, look at what the details are. And that can be done a couple of different ways. So sometimes we're just looking at an overview of what the contract required, is a short description, and what the cost is, what was paid for this particular product or service, and a few other areas. Or we could request, for instance, we could find out that information first, and then we could request public records, as they have referenced here, through this email, cpra@prc.sec.gov.org. And once we get a copy of the winning bid for something that's similar to what we do or exactly what we do, then we can review that with you together and talk about what may be the similarities and what may be the differences. Of course, we still want to follow what the agency's current solicitation says, or what the agency's current rules, because what may have been contracted in the past may be a little different than what they're currently going to be looking for, but it gives us an idea. Also, there are no fees to register. Thank you, Catherine, for Periscope or for Ariba. So when you're contracting with the county, it has already set that up with those particular entities where you will not need to pay for registration. And then learn more about the forecast. One of the colleagues from the county mentioned the forecast. And so definitely look out there to see what they're planning to purchase in the future, so you can also plan as far as seeing where the products or services you provide fit with what's going to be procured in the future. And that's it for me. And I'm gonna turn it back over to James.
All right, thanks, Christina. That was very informative, and we do have time for questions. In fact, we've got plenty of time for questions. And I see just a note that Catherine has been busy answering questions that have been entered into the Q&A. If you guys have any questions that you'd like read aloud, you can specify in there. But please, this is a good time to start entering your questions. We can have a fruitful Q&A session here. But I do want to go over some of our upcoming events that we're having soon. This is for Norcal PTAC. As I mentioned, we're often doing webinars these days. On June 15th, we have a construction contracting webinar with Ed Duarte on how to write a scope letter that may be relevant for some of you in the public works industry. And that is at 10 a.m. We've got this event called the Virtual Norcal Gov to Biz Matchmaker. It's our biggest event of the year. We're having it on the 20th of July at 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., kind of all-day thing. It's a really interesting, good tool. We're going to connect you with agencies, whether it's federal or local, city, state, even utilities. There's going to be a lot of different opportunities for meetings and professional development to find opportunities and get your actually sit down and get face time with these folks and present your company and what they do to get in their minds. So we have a list of webinars that we're going to be doing in order to prepare for these. So we have these 4 webinars here, July 6th, 7th, 8th, and the 15th. You can check them out here, how to prepare for a matchmaker, statement of qualifications. We'll have panelists from state and local agencies, a bunch of different panelists, as well as panelists from federal agencies on the 15th. So this is some of the most rewarding resources that we offer all year. So I really recommend signing up for all of these matchmaking webinars, and the matchmaker itself on July 20th doesn't cost anything, and it can be a huge value to your company. So, and we do have more webinars coming up with the County of Santa Clara, which we are happy about. We've got one on August 26th for informal competitive procurement, and we've got requests for proposal on November 18th. So please go to our website. That's where you can find all of this, norcalptac.org. It's also where you can sign up for our services. And just another note, I always get questions about this. We are going to share the slides and the video later today. So that will also be on our website under resources and past webinars. All right, so we have time for questions now. As I mentioned, many of them have already been answered, so you can take a look and review what's been answered. A lot of really informative answers in there. But we have a question here from an anonymous attendee. Is asking, one more point, if you want to specify someone specific or a department, whether it's for Norcal PTAC or for parks, or just for the general County of Santa Clara, you're very welcome to do that. That might be helpful in terms of clarification. So the first question is, I have a residential address in San Jose that's my home office for product design, business administration, and marketing. Do I still count as local preference if I'm using equipment in Santa Cruz? Anyone is welcome to answer that who has an answer. Christina, you're muted.
Sorry. I believe the answer would be yes, because that's your corporate headquarters in San Jose. But if anyone of the panelists thinks differently, feel free to speak up.
I would,
you,
this is
Christina.
Teresa Cox, I would probably say, if the business is officially listed with the California State Secretary of State, I would defer to what that address is listed as. That would be your business address that you have registered, and then that would dictate if you're in Santa Clara to be classified as a Santa Clara County business to qualify for the local preference.
All right. Thank you, guys. Ricardo saying the current vendor viewer report in BidSync shows very limited information, organization name and state. Does the county or BidSync provide additional information such as contact name or email? The information would be used to try to join other teams as a subcontractor or subconsultant.
Well, I was thinking maybe Catherine might answer, but I'm thinking they may be referring to they're just trying to look at a bid without registering for the county. And once you are registered as a vendor with the county, then you can see the full details.
Catherine, do you have anything to add on that?
Sorry, I was muted. So that might be a question actually for our panelists. Perhaps Pon or Kim might be able to speak to this. Oftentimes we see this in construction where vendors want to have access to participate as a subcontractor. Do you have any recommendations from FAS or perhaps Roads and Airports?
Yeah, so this is Pon. So if we're talking about a subcontractor trying to get on with a general contractor, that is something, nobody has any idea who is the plan holder, right? I mean, they would have to go and take a look who the plan holder is, and then they would have to solicit their services to the general contractor. We don't know who is going to be bidding, so we don't know who the points of contacts are at that time until we get the final bid, and then we know who the general contractor is. So until it's official, until we actually get the low bid number, we don't know who is planning to bid. the best way is to take a look at who downloaded the plans. From that point on, you can take a look at, you can reach out to them and see, by company or whatnot, but we wouldn't have contact information on who to reach out to as far as the general contractor side. But if they're trying to reach somebody that's doing the solicitation from the county, I mean, there's typically a name and a contact information on the solicitation on BidSync.
Can I just add to that? So like Pon said, we don't know for sure who's going to be bidding. We know by looking in BidSync or Periscope who has downloaded the plans and specs. And the plans and specs are basically the bid packet. So I get a lot of inquiries from subcontractors. They want to know who the plan holders are. So the best we can do is refer people to Periscope, and we're able to mark that we're posting a construction bid. So by doing that, that allows the vendors to see who has actually downloaded the plans and specs. And that's about the best we can do as far as guiding someone to who a plan holder is. So typically then the subcontractor will contact these plan holders and go from there. So yeah, that's about the best we can do as far as how to guide a subcontractor to attach with a construction contractor.
I just had a kind of a question, clarification. When a vendor checks off, they're interested, like an interested vendor, does that list populate for others to see? Like you say, the plan holders, for instance, who downloaded the plan, does that?
I'm not sure what you mean by check off if they're interested.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen where you can just check off, like there's like in BidSync, there's a panel on the side and you check off that you're an interested vendor.
Well, I'm not sure what it looks like on the vendor side. I can see a little bit of what the vendor can see. So I don't know exactly how I know they can see who has, I'm sorry, let me turn my camera on too, who has viewed the project.
Okay.
But recently we were able to add a feature that will allow a subcontractor or anybody for that matter to go see who actually downloaded the plans and specs. So we don't know, but prior to us using BidSync to solicit our construction bids, people actually used to come into the office and purchase the plans and specs, so purchase the bid packet. Then we went and did everything electronically, which actually makes it easier for vendors to obtain our project. Because we do it this way now, we can only guess who the bidders are going to be. So the best we can do again is just instruct the subcontractor to look and see who has actually downloaded the project. Because out of maybe 200 contractors who have viewed, we might get 5 that actually download the project. So that way they can contact maybe those 5 contractors for work. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
But everybody can see. So prior to us actually getting this feature where we can check it as a construction bid, they could only see who has viewed it. Now they're able to see who has downloaded the project. Okay. So basically, it's the same thing as who has purchased the project, okay. But just because they've downloaded it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to bid on it, but probably.
Right. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Sonia's asking, how do we register for the Matchmaker program? Good question. You can go to our website, go to our calendar, and you will find the Matchmaker on our calendar for July. It's July 20th. click on the register now button, and that will get you to our landing page. And we have a whole platform for making the matchmaking happen. It's not so much a program as a one-off event, but we do have these sort of a whole thing. So recommend you register as soon as possible to get your hat in the ring. Okay. Just another note to take a look at the answered questions. We're also answering them by typing them in. So Herman Desai is asking, how do you consider any company as a single sole source provider? CDCN has no competition, and the city of San Jose considers as sole source service provider as we reach the specific population of the county renters in English, Spanish, and Vietnamese in 30-second video commercials. So I guess the question there is, what is the criteria for consideration for a single sole source provider? Does that make sense as a question? You can also ask for clarification.
Yeah, if I understand it the same, then if a department has a recommendation to procure services from a particular provider, that department would provide their market research, and the market research would help identify if there were other competitors in the space. And then we also have our procurement processes and policies that the agency would need to comply with to determine whether or not the solicitation needed to be issued, or indeed it could be awarded as a single source award. So if you're working with a specific agency right now, I would ask them what their method of procurement would be. And if you're interested in advertising yourself to the county, I would recommend connecting with specific agencies that may be in the market for these types of services. And you can always do that by doing a general Google search for County of Santa Clara agencies and departments. And the first link that you'll receive is a full and complete listing of all of the departments with contact information, email and phone numbers, and oftentimes some contact names as well.
This is Teresa Cox. I would also like to add that for single source, there is one of our board policies that we follow that is in section 5.6.51 D2 A2, and it defines a single source procurement, and it is a sourcing method that's used to procure a service from one source, and that there could be other vendors, not just in Santa Clara, but across other areas, other states that can provide the service that's usually defined in a scope of work or specification. So not to confuse the two, sole sources, there is no one else except, no competition except that one type of service or product that vendor can provide. Whereas a single source, you may be able to provide it in the market that you mentioned with the specific languages, but that doesn't mean that you're the only one. It's just that it could be other people out there that, as my colleague has mentioned about doing some of the market research, that's where there's a definition that's defined as single source. Once you've done the research, there could be other people out there, but we're not saying that you're the only one that provides that service. So I hope that helps in understanding the difference of single source provider for the person that asked that question.
All right, thanks, Teresa. Okay, do we have any other questions that we'd like read aloud and answered live here? I just want to note, before you leave today, if you could fill out a survey, I put the link in the chat. So it's that HSU link. take just a moment. You can do it anonymously and just let us know how you felt about the survey today, about the event today. Well, I don't see any other questions here. So I just want to thank everyone, and a huge thanks to the County of Santa Clara for putting in all the work to partner with us for these events. Thanks to Christina Jones for doing all the research and putting it in the content of the presentation. And thanks to all of you who joined today and make this possible. So thanks, and hope to see you at future webinars, both from Norcal PTAC and in this event series starting in August again. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.